All right, no games, no silly intros, no beating around the bush. Usually I'll start off with something goofy. I'll, just kind of lollygag a bit. People still say that. But this time we're just going to hop straight into it because something special has released. And it belongs to the artist that's on my wall right there. Tyler the Creator's CHROMAKOPIA. It's been about 2 years since the release of Tyler the Creator's Call Me If You Get Lost, and since then we've seen, a bit of him around here and there over features. It is now 2024, and without warning, Tyler has hit us with an unexpected teaser a week before the album's release, even going out his way to buy trucks for the rollout. I can easily say it was a smart move to give his audience a shock factor to this extent. Teasing a release the week before and on a Monday is great. Before I get into my breakdown slash review, I want it to be known that everything I say here should be taken with a grain of salt, as I'm just going off of my interpretations, what I believe he's trying to get across in this album. Now, I've been reflecting on different angles he would take this project after hearing the singles he teased, pondering what his intentions are and even what the execution would look like. With this album, we are given a new persona to kind of resonate with and grasp the concept of. Who is this Saint Chroma character, and what does the mask ultimately symbolize? I want to go over everything I took away from this album, from its sound to the story it tells to how we can relate to its authenticity, starting off with the feel of this album. CHROMAKOPIA is shown to be this dulled world with little to no saturation, which basically ties into the definition of chroma, short for chrominance. It is the intensity of a color. When Tyler goes over different stories and situations throughout the album, some of them take a much more depressing and or emotional path, which could be relating to living in a dual world, aka a chromacopia. Tyler, or maybe his character Saint Chroma, constantly expresses the challenges, anxiety, and paranoia, even a moment of prejudice within his life. All these moments of adversity can without a doubt give a weakened outlook on life. In the beginning, we see Tyler leading a group on the opener Saint Chroma, introducing his new persona. As they march, Tyler goes in rapping, slowly building onto his voice as the song progresses. He talks about his upcoming success and that nothing stands in his way. He has the inspiration, he has the drive, even has the respect from Pharrell Williams, as he mentions in one of the verses. All these factors pushing him to be great. It's a great spark of hope. It pushes positivity for anyone trying to create a future success. The chorus stands as a symbol of hope, telling us to feel the fire or passion that burns inside of us. In the second verse, Tyler worries about the other side to all this success. He questions himself on whether or not this life is still worth it, but fortunately, the guiding light tells him to stay on the shining path despite the obstacles. The guiding voice is actually played by none other than Tyler's mom, Bonita Smith. I hope I didn't butcher that name. Moving into the track Ratata, we pretty much get this surface level performance heavy, gritty sound that Tyler absolutely murders. We reach this darker tone that's filled with nasty bass and a constant one note flatlining buzz, and this distinct tapping noise in the background that kind of echoes, all creating this eerie atmosphere. Not to mention, it's backed up by Tyler's unapologetic performance as he dives deeply into his braggadocious energy, flexing the objects, the success, the connections he has, which we can say is a build-up off the recent opening as he is now owning his position of power. The only problem with this idea is that there's no true overall story that consistently stretches. We see Tyler's life from a different perspective with every track. It's like taking a peek inside his brain and watching multiple short stories. This track was an enjoyable performance, to say the least. Not to mention, it smoothly transitions into the next song, Noid, which not only was a great single to set the stage, but also holds a well-executed message that stems from Ratata. With all the fame that Tyler holds, brings unwanted attention that can feel overwhelming and create a constant fear in your head. Between the lyrical substance and music video showcase, Tyler speaks on the feeling of being constantly anxious. This theme possibly was inspired from real-life situations of fans sometimes disregarding his personal boundaries and coming off a bit extreme. Tyler's more heavy rock style of production helps guide the listener in its emotional state. The use of overdrive guitar, absolutely heavy hitting drums, and even his chorus with the use of Paul Ngozzi's vocals amplifies the horror aspect. Shout out to Zambia. He lets us know that this paranoia of his is no game at all. Everything around him is a nightmare waiting to happen. I'm way more invested in the execution and thematic side of things here. As a song, it's enjoyable, but the visualizer does wonders for it. Just does so much. really ties everything together. Darling I has a more R&B eccentric sound with a gratifying feature from Tizo Touchdown himself. Tizo has not missed on a feature yet. Let's clap it up for that. Together they create this bright summer feel, but the statements told within the track contradict as Tyler goes in depth on his struggle to commit to a relationship. He's not ready to settle down, but like any human, he falls in love often and has to put those feelings aside in order to avoid future commotion and potential heartbreaks. Tizo makes a great contribution. As always, his voice just comes off gravitating every time he sings. The song is more on the nose and gets his point across clearly. Not only is it a heartfelt moment, but also realistic and relatable to people out there, just like the rest of this album. But I'll touch more on that in the end. Right now, I want to dive into the poignant track, Hey Jane. As far as storytelling goes, this right here is a pivotal moment, not just in this album, but in Tyler the Creator's career, solely because of how personal and sensitive of a topic this is. Now, from the content within this track, we can assume this is specifically a story and not a real piece of Tyler's life. We're introduced to this character just specified as Jane, possibly symbolizing a Jane Doe, which means, unnamed. We start from the perspective of Tyler as he tells Jane here the news of her pregnancy. Tyler is the father to be in this position. He starts off with a positive mentality, reassuring her, or rather himself, that everything will be okay, saying anything to calm his deep feelings of anxiety. He forces himself to believe that they can make this work. However, he quickly folds not too long into the verse, digging himself into this deep panic. Tyler claims he's not ready to leave behind his freedom and settle down, as mentioned back in Darling I. Then the next verse, Tyler raps from Jane's perspective and feeds us her thoughts. Jane herself is the one carrying the child, so she ultimately feels most of the stress. She goes on convincing herself that they can make this work, but that doesn't last long. She questions whether or not to get rid of the child, which is not an easy choice for any mother. She sees the worry on Tyler's face and would rather take on parenthood alone to avoid any drama between them. This is not only an emotional story, but it holds so much relatability to so many out there. Hopefully this track serves as a message to everyone. These situations happen, and so it helps to make sure that you take the measures to protect yourself and wait until the time is right, like your parents taught you. Before I move on, I still gotta give credit to the production. Tyler creates a much quieter atmosphere in order to give the writing and topic its dominance. It's calming and puts us in a listening mood. The next track, I Killed You, plays into another topic discussing the prejudice corporations have on black appearance, specifically black hair. To summarize, Tyler starts off the track with a nursery rhyme kind of sound. He mentions the use of hot combs, blowouts, 360 waves, and hair grease, stating that black hair needs to be straightened or greased in order to appeal to white business owners. This is in fact a real societal issue that stems from unfair stereotypes and rooted prejudice. I have met people that have a strong dislike for dreads due to looking tacky and uncivilized. Lots of black people have been met with these systematic problems and have had to change their natural looks to fix themselves to another person's needs. We shouldn't have to change our hair for the likes of another, but it's the only way to put food on our tables, and that essentially creates an unsolvable problem. I love how the track builds from the intro, starting off very quaint in the instrumental. Just a pattern of strings mixed with rhythmic tapping. Then the synths come out to play around a bit, kind of adding on to the excitement. Everything sounds super clunky and raw. Also, the vocal performances have yet to disappoint. Donald Glover and his amazing voice added nicely. I enjoy what was served here, but not enough to favor it. It feels like an opener to a much grander topic that never gets touched on enough. We just leave it at this extent. So much can be said on a topic this serious. Judge Judy is possibly my least favorite, and that lies more in the fact that I don't get much out of the story here. He meets a woman named Judy at a cafe and ends up doing the tango with her later on, if you know what I mean. He's enjoying himself and continuously tells us in the chorus that he doesn't judge her in any way. Then we quickly segue onto a darker note about what I believe is the suicide of previous mentioned Jane. She sent him a note apologizing for her lack of communication. It mentions how hard everything has been for her since he left. She thanks him for the moments they spent together and wishes him the best. You could place the title of antagonist on Tyler for a situation like this, considering he placed her in this position and then left her to deal with it all. However, this can also serve as a heavy-handed lesson. A moment like this sticks with you forever and can change your entire character, really. As an overall listen, nothing really sticks with me, as the story between Tyler and the cafe woman was not only short and uneventful, but it doesn't feel as gravitating even with the ending twist, especially when the next song is pretty much the biggest piece of filler. Sticky is our party filler track. Listening to this beat makes me feel like I'm watching Stomp the Yard. I literally might hit a headspin on God. I have no issues with the rap verses, especially when I heard Lil Wayne go absolutely bonkers, constantly throwing out memorable lines and pure bars. Can't forget Sexy Red and Glorilla also held up their end of the bargain and matched the energy perfectly. It's too bad that every feature has absolutely no time to shine. The chorus raps over most of the song and every feature is underutilized. Plus, they never get to tap into their element. I do enjoy the orchestrated feeling, though. The trumpets are insane. The atmosphere really does give schoolyard marching band vibes, though. I don't know, it's sort of random to touch on such personal topics and societal issues, then randomly just throw in a party song. It feels out of place sandwiched with these deeper cuts. I know every artist needs their concert song, so I'll just leave it be with what it is. Moving on to Take Your Mask Off, it gets right back into the problem with people choosing to hide who they really are. Kind of like Tyler does in, the singles we've seen. Take Your Mask Off gets right back into the problem with people choosing to hide who they really are and replace that sense of self with a facade, which maybe we can see Tyler doing in the lead singles Noid and Chroma. To hide who you are means you lack self-confidence. You feel out of ordinary just being you. So you play a character. Once again, we get jazzy piano work, horns, and even cutesy synths, bringing a happier atmosphere to the instrumental. This song does give off a more positive vibe. The guiding light even chimes in, reminding him to keep it 100. On the track Tomorrow, Tyler struggles with the thought of having children. His mother and others presumably want to see him start a family, but we already know that this isn't the life he wants. He's 33 now, and this usually is the perfect time for adults to settle down. The story is backed up by a soft ballad with lots of singing done from T himself. The chorus is catchy, and the message holds up really well. He does a good job of setting the emotional state for his listeners, grabbing us and putting us in his position. And if I remember correctly, Kanye himself actually shares statements similar to this on 808s during the song Welcome to Heartbreak. By now, it becomes clear that there is no direct storyline he wants to get across. This album is a look into multiple points of Tyler's life. We see the most exposed, hard on sleeve, paranoid, anxious, and lost sides of Tyler, reminding us how human he is no matter what perception we have of him. Everyone has regrets, everyone has mistakes, and even obstacles that they face. This is a therapy session, kind of relating to the theme of Kendrick Lamar's Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers. Toward the end, we hear his outro titled I Hope You Find Your Way Out, bringing a laid-back, slow-paced jazz beat with soft piano, calm drums, and classic Tyler synths. Once again, he leads the foreground to the rapping. Tyler takes his last moment to look back at the past, the good and the bad, remembering he isn't perfect, but at the same time, being happy with who he is today. Tyler, the creator, constantly pushes himself into a new boundary. From what we've seen as far back as his career goes, Tyler has only evolved, constantly finding new ways to reshape his art, looking around for all kinds of inspiration. CHROMAKOPIA is thematic in the sense of self-healing. Putting all your mistakes and problems out there for the world and coming to terms with it all. Having a new, fresh, blank slate. Leaving it all behind and creating a new start. Now, when it comes to artistic statements and sentiments, I love just about every direction he went. I love the way he executes these issues and turns them into a song. I appreciate his hyper use of choruses and jazzy instrumentals. I like the way he decides to open and end his project. There are only a few instances where I feel he falls short. It may not be as grounded as Igor, but CHROMAKOPIA shows maturity, growth, and versatility. Well done, Tyler.